All right. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Boldly Becoming podcast. I have a lovely guest and another teammate of Kate Styles Photography, Megan Weems. I can say so many things about you, just like Kate. It is a oiled machine that, you have to keep adding oil. And I think Megan is actually one of those members of the team that is constantly adding oil in her own way. And it's me and Kate where we're going, if we didn't have Megan, some of these things feel like they would fall apart or we'd be far more stressed out. But yeah, I would say, give us a moment, give us an intro for you. And that can be life, that can be business, that can be all of the above. What do you want to tell people about yourself?
I say I'm Meg or Megan. I kind of switch my nickname based on who's in the studio because as a 90s baby, there are a lot of Megans around. But I have been a part of the KSP team for, I think this is 6, almost 7 years now, which is so surreal to think about. It's funny that you talk about like an oiled machine because it does really feel like we're like that now, which is hilarious. Again, thinking about the beginning, like Kate was a one-woman show and I kind of like busted onto the scene for her because I was doing the corporate thing. I was actually doing the double corporate thing of like one job from 7 to 3 and then the other job from 3 to 7 and later, and realized that just wasn't it for me. That kind of work-life balance was not what I needed. And I found Kate, and then from there we grew, and then we found you, and it's just been like a beautiful addition. So I wear a lot of hats, but I really like that. I think I used to joke like Jill of all trades, but now I'm like Meg of all skills, where I like to be able to do a little bit of everything so that I can step in and I can help and lend where I'm needed. And I do think that's how machines best function, when you have a little bit of like a moving piece that can fill gaps and make sure, like you said, things just get as done as they can get. That's like, I think also a hard element of working on a small team is it really is just the ladies you see in here. There are not like magic machines behind the scenes that you're not getting to see. Like we are the team, and we pour all of ourselves into the work that we do, and that includes the admin and the back end, which I do think, being a photography studio and being a very visual space, people forget that there are things that do have to happen behind the curtain that keep it running.
As we see curtains behind us,
yes,
right?
As you see our curtains. So
well, no, you're exactly right. And I very much understand having the multiple hats and doing multiple jobs to get to the dream job, which is, where I feel like I'm at now. And it's usually the things that you love the most or want the most. You kind of have to like work your way towards them generally. And I know for me, when I was getting there, I had like this small fear of like, will I get to that dream and then either not know what to do with myself, or will I go, oh, I don't like doing this for a job.
Right. Will the passion become the profession?
And
it kind of loses its luster when you have to do it because it's your livelihood.
Do you feel like you ever crossed that path getting there, or do you feel like, you lost your way finding to the dream job? And I won't put words into your mouth. Maybe this isn't your dream job.
No. Well, so it's funny. I would not have told you that I thought I would end up as a photographer or working in a space like this. I grew up in the dance and theater side of the world, so I always loved like the production and the performance and, again, the passion that goes into that. And I think you've mentioned before that is kind of a really big piece of what we do. You do kind of have to put on your customer service peacock mode, where you're just ready for the show. You're ready to make things work and flow, even if it's to your own detriment. So yeah, it's funny that this kind of is the dream job, but I wouldn't have told you from the get-go that this was where I thought I would end up. I kind of went right out of college into public service, working for the state and working for vulnerable communities. And I really loved the work and the people that we served and were able to help. But the bureaucracy piece of it is so hard to navigate. And I feel like it really does. It puts up barriers for people. So in a space like this, where we are such an intimate team, we do have our hands on everything. It gives that sense of control. And I think that's also a beautiful piece to that like dream job element, where you feel like the effort you're putting in has the payout for it, but also that you have direct control over what impacts your clients and the experience that we build for them. So yeah, I hope I kind of answered that question. But yeah, it's kind of been a beautiful evolution to get here. I've always been creative. I always loved arts and crafts, which don't get me on my craft tangent. Craftswomanship is a beautiful thing, and those skills are really important. And I love that a piece of what you do specifically for the 40 over 40 clients, but also our portraiture clients, is you really shine a light on those parts of themselves that we push aside as being something important to someone's personality because it's like a craft or a passion or a hobby. And if it doesn't make you money, like somehow it doesn't have value.
Mm-hmm.
And that's never the case in this space. Like all of those little things make you who you are, and those things highlight your personality in beautiful ways. So I also love that I get to come in and assist a session where I might not know what the goal is or what the emotional kind of investment is for the client. But if I get to come in and use my skills to help highlight those parts of themselves so that that is what's shining in their photos, like that's the greater reward than anything else. Because I got to use all those skills that I've been like slowly cultivating to actually pour into them.
100%.
So, yeah. So it's, again, it's a lot of hats, but I don't mind wearing all the hats. I like that I get to kind of, every day is different. Every day is a new approach.
And I think it's fun to watch you kind of like jump between the things because your interest gets that way. We joke, about ADHD and us, creative brains and things like that. But I think it works to our like benefit in that aspect because each of us have this different type of personality and how our work shows up. So it's just naturally been beautiful because then we can step in where we feel our best benefit to the team.
Yes. Like filling the gaps, but not in a deficit.
Right. Well, and it's sometimes can be difficult when we talk about how, we're actually, people notice us for the type of team we are because they're not used to how we operate. And it's honestly worked best for us that way because, I don't know that it would work if we didn't operate the way that we do.
I agree.
Which is hard to explain to some, but like, it's not that it's a bad thing. It's just what it is. And it's being noticed, which is cool.
Agreed.
And I feel like what one element as you're talking about showing up and whether you're shooting for the client or it's one of us, Kate or I, you are bringing this energy to the room that is just like, it's palpable. Like it's something that the clients are feeling and they're feeling loved on. And we joke that our assistant for the day, whether that's you, me, or Kate, we're coming in as the hype team and we're there to, flick some hair if it needs to get out of the way. We're acting as wind if the fan's not working or it's too much fan. Like
all the fine details.
Yeah.
In the moment. Because that attentiveness, I think, is also something that unfortunately a lot of women don't have in their day-to-day life, or they are that person for other people in their lives. So like I will be watching for the hair that gets caught in your eyelash. I'll be watching for like the curtain to get unsettled and we need to fix it. Because when you sit down, again, that emotional investment that clients are making when they come into this space, like I want them to feel that on all levels. So I appreciate hearing that energy is felt because I do think it's really important. And I think it's a beautiful part of the process in the studio too, to really kind of pull you out of your shell. It's intimidating to come into a space that you've never been with a team of women you've never met to potentially do something really vulnerable like boudoir or portraiture where you're really you're putting yourself on display. Like that comes with a lot of hesitancy. So anything I can do to kind of like alleviate that or bring a silly smile to the moment, like that will break down that anxiety and just makes the whole process so much easier for them to really shine.
100%. And I feel like you mentioned in the beginning, you bring so much to our admin side of things. And, I know when the three of us became a full team, it was figuring out those processes that worked for everyone and that worked for the team for us to be the best that we could be at that possible moment because it's always evolving. But Kate and I are always, and it might sound like a love fest over here, guys, because it is, but it's just,
we can't help it. We just like each other.
I mean, and it's one of those things where you are only as good as your systems in some aspects, especially as a business. So I just giving you your flowers for the work that you do on the back end, even if it's like herding cats and dogs with us sometimes. And we're different animals, different days. So
yes, well, I appreciate that because it's true though. I think you're right. And it's like the idea that there's always a sign for a reason. Like there's always a system because it's needed. And the only way to figure that out is by trial and error sometimes. So I love that our personalities, like you said, that kind of like ADHD creative brain, you know what? Sometimes it's when we're fixated on the thought, that's when we got to do it. Or like the thought goes away and 6 months later we're like, oh, did we come back to that? Did we ever actually address that issue?
Right.
But then again, for the constant communication that we have with our clients, it's really important that there aren't holes in that. And so it is an evolution. It is a beautiful evolution as the business has grown and we've each kind of found, I don't want to say our lane, because I don't feel like that's really apt. We all definitely we're fluid. We hop between the roles, we fill in where we need to be.
Right.
And that's what makes it more seamless. And I agree. I think that's probably why it's catching attention, because a lot of other spaces, maybe it's dependent on personality, but it is really hard to say, okay, so here's the job I need you to do, but I also need you to maybe be prepared to do 2 other people's roles today. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody has that kind of flow. And I think if we didn't have that, you're right, it would really kind of be destructive for how we approach the experience here in the studio.
For sure. And this kind of leads me into my next question, and kind of the area expertise that I think is going to be super impactful for people to hear from you, specifically the folks that really experience with this. And you've dealt with the disability community, but you've got your own health, journey. I won't say battles or struggles, but like you got your own health story that also leads into how you have to show up as an employee, as a partner in business. And I know it's not always easy, but I think it's cool that Kate shows us what motherhood can look like in the studio, even though I don't have human children yet. Both of you do. Between the two of you have 5 different kids. And I've been able to beautifully see how business, motherhood, and it all can work together. But then you throw in the health element for you. I would say, was there anything you'd like to share with our audience? Is there anything, like any other questions I can get more specific with, but on that journey for you?
I think so. It's interesting. I kind of in my mind, I guess I overlap my health journey with my motherhood journey, because they kind of were not issues, but they were things that showed up around the same season of life. That unfortunately, and I will not speak for all women, but I feel like my personal experience has been a lot of having my issue brought to a provider, like a new specialist or a new internist or some kind of doctor. And I say, okay, here's what I'm dealing with. And the first question is, well, do you have kids? Well, how old are you? Because hormonal health can so greatly affect that. And I think that's very true. And I do not discount that. But I think in my experience, it's really hard to kind of blanket say everything you're struggling with is just because of your hormones, because we also might not have the research to back any of that up. And we don't have the data to say, oh, actually, it is the case that women your age with these symptoms and these hereditary conditions, that this would be what this is. It's just more of a, you're 25, you'll do this. Oh, now you're in your 30s. Oh, you're approaching this season. And for me personally, I had seen not only my mom, but also my grandmother struggle with the similar symptoms of migraine, fatigue, honestly, symptoms of burnout that we're just now recognizing as what they are, instead of it being, oh, she just can't handle it. Oh, it's just too much. And so I think that kind of perspective really, I internalized that a lot through my 20s, where it was just that I couldn't keep up. Like I said, I like to wear a lot of hats. I like to do a lot of things. I had the fullest of schedules pre-kids. Now post-kids, it's like, oh, we have one activity this week, like we're capped. Like
Right.
that's my social battery. I've got nothing left.
Right.
But that all being said, it was a really hard adjustment for me into my first pregnancy, which was during 2020. So also, global pandemic.
Yeah.
We were all just kind of flying by the seat of our pants. We didn't really know what every day was going to bring. And for me, with my health, with migraine and the fatigue, adding in pregnancy and quarantine, like isolation level, kind of really got to my headspace. And I did really internalize it as like, I just can't. I'm incapable of pushing past this. And now I will say, I'm not going to pretend I'm a veteran parent, but my oldest is 5.5 and he's about to go to kindergarten. So I feel like we're through that first hunk of childhood where I'm like, okay, we kind of feel like we know what we're doing. And I can't let myself fall into that. Like, oh, you just can't do it. It's no, there must be something going on. Did we have a trigger? I had been someone who had never had an allergy. And then I turned 25 and it was like gluten, shellfish, eggs, all kinds of vegetables,
Pork.
just pork. Yeah, I would say pretty much anything that people are like, ooh, I'm craving this. Yeah, I can't eat that now. And those were the things that was, again, a weird hit to that mental image of like, okay, so if I am having a full day and I've gone to work and I've gone back and forth with the kids, did I pack enough food when I left my house? Because I also have a commute. Did I do all the things I have to do to take care of myself on top of taking care of my kids, on top of taking care of work tasks? And that can be a slippery slope to like self-blame.
Mm.
And you and several other people in my life, including my mom and my close friends, have reminded me that having a health crisis is not something that can be blamed. You can't point and accuse yourself of being the source. Like, I always joke for my children too. I'm like, oh, mommy's body just doesn't like that. Because it's not that I don't like it. Like, if I could eat French bread, I would devour French bread. But
Girl.
mommy's body doesn't like that. Like, that's not going to go well.
Right.
And I think that perspective shift has been very hard. But because of me being more open about what I've had going on, and kind of, again, the constant hearing of, oh, you're just a woman in your 20s, now to, oh, you're just a woman in your 30s. Oh, you're fully postpartum from your second kid. Maybe it's everything leveling back out. Okay, but is it?
Right.
And I think that piece of me too, to just be a better advocate for myself and not question in a like accusatory way, but question what I'm being told. Okay, well, do we have the research to back that up? Oh, you want to try this new med? What are the side effects? What are the things that I'm going to continue to encounter that I know I can avoid in terms of triggers, versus what are things that I'm introducing to my system that could be a new potential trigger? Just that kind of, I don't want to say apprehension, because I do try to not lean into the fear, but the concern that if I am not paying attention, that I will put myself in a position, and then slippery slope, I'm just blaming myself again. So
absolutely. And I think what's something that most women fall into also is, like you said earlier, is, oh, am I just not, can I not do all of those things anymore? And I think with our generation and our parents' generation, for sure, we were asked to do more than we should have needed to do, right?
Yeah, probably.
And so I think there's a little bit of that all women deal with. But then also when we do get to a certain point in our life where we have to come to the reality of, okay, maybe I need to slow down. Maybe in this season, I'm going to be a working mom, but maybe I'm mom a little bit more than I feel like I'm working in some capacities. And I think that's, a beautiful thing, again, that our team can illustrate is, while it's messy, it's not perfect, but we're able to figure out whatever the balance is, and communication is such a huge piece to that.
Yes. Well, and I think that honestly, like, having you guys remind me of that in the hard moments, that's what kind of pulled me out of that headspace too, because the idea that we should live to work is such a weird concept. And I agree, it's probably like a generational mindset that's shifting, but we should really work to live. Even if it's a job that inspires you and ignites your passions, not everything has to have some kind of monetary value to be seen as success. And I think the same thing goes for motherhood. There is a lot of unrewarded work when it comes to being a mom that, for me, I definitely thrive on words of affirmation and acknowledgement and validation. Like, those are my big ones. And that's not something you always get as a mom. But I do love that in my workspace, you guys feed that side of me and remind me of that even in my motherhood, because there is a hard pressure to fill everyone's expectations, right? I think it's even harder to meet your own expectations for yourself. And that is something that in my 30s and in my early years of being a mom, I really had to reckon with, and decide, yeah, this is something I'm going to have to pull back on, or, oh, because I know I want to step up more in a certain area of my life, then somewhere there has to take a deficit. And that, I think, also comes from my partnership with my husband. Not everybody has that in their relationship dynamics, and I'm very grateful. But it's a conversation. It's constant communication. It's daily check-ins. It is making sure I pack lunches and have meds and do all the things I'm supposed to do, right? But also not blaming myself when a migraine does hit, or I do need to ask for help, or I need to acknowledge when my threshold has been met and when I do need to step back or recharge. And I'm really grateful because I agree. I don't think every workspace provides that. And I do think having a small team really emphasizes that for each of us. We're really good at doing the check-ins and saying, hey, where are you at personally? Because I know we talked about all the work stuff, but where are you at in your day-to-day? How are things going? How have you been feeling? We know each other's personalities so well at this point too that you can tell when something's off or when someone's pushing through when they probably shouldn't be, and you can be the reminder for each other. So that's kind of, again, maybe a very unique thing that we have that a lot of workspaces don't have, but I'm forever grateful because I've worked for a lot of businesses in a lot of range of industries as well. So I feel like that experience has shown me what I do want, or I guess what that like true dream job really is.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm grateful that the studio has become that for me, even if it, again, wasn't out the go, oh, I'm going to be a photographer, or I'm going to work in a space like this. It's been a beautiful evolution, and I'm grateful every day for it.
Oh, yes. So it sounds like, working on your inner critic, it sounds like communication and community are major things for your journey and how you bring it into your everyday. And I know that a lot of women are going to feel that. I mean, men too. The brave men that listen to this podcast. No, I'm just kidding. We welcome you guys too.
Yes.
But
all welcome at the table.
Right. So that actually like really teased me up for this last question. I always love to ask my guests, what is it like? Because in our makeup chair, we have all this wisdom being shed on us, and it's
really
awesome.
do. It's like a little therapy session.
Right.
For us too, not just for the client.
Right. And so I wanted to ask, what is your like nugget of wisdom that you want to share with the audience today?
So I always, when I'm talking with clients, I like to think about like the mean little voice in your head, who is probably like the 15 or 16-year-old version of yourself. Just, again, the worst critic. I try to think about what I can say to myself that negates that voice today. So that would, I guess, be my wisdom for every person is if you're having a hard moment, how would you like hype up your inside voice or your that little piece of conscience in your mind? How do you get through the hard stuff without being unkind to yourself? And that's usually by talking to yourself like you're talking to a friend or a sister or your coworker or your bestie, giving yourself the advice you'd give others, and really kind of, I say shut down the voice, but I do think we should also recognize the voice in ourselves and kind of acknowledge without giving it the weight that it might have used to carry. But yeah, I guess that like biggest piece of advice is just if you're going to talk to yourself and you're going to talk yourself down, talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend. Give yourself those pieces of advice because you're going to listen to it a little differently. And sometimes it really does change how you start to see yourself and change how you interact day to day. And that bleeds into all areas of your life. So I think that's my advice I would offer, my words of wisdom.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say, and that is the hardest relationship to have is the one that you have with yourself. And it's sometimes being kind. So thank you for that awesome takeaway. And thank you everyone for listening in today's episode with Megan at the Boldly Becoming podcast. We'll see you soon.